Assuming you've now got a list of your data sources, you need to look at those data sources and assess the data quality that's coming from those. This can be both a subjective and quantitative exercise. For example, quantitative is looking just at the fact that are there missing records that are key? How many missing records? How many areas do we have? Is the data compatible through the different sources that you're going to be drawing data? And subjective is more in line with how are you going to be using that for the processes in your new system, or how is that going to be output in your AI project, or how are you going to display that data for reporting. So that's a subjective element. And as you move through the Flow7 steps, it might be that you need to have a good idea of your target. And even I, at this point, do take an export of sample data from my target system areas that I know about and match them at an early stage. You'll find assessing your data quality early on can highlight key areas to make sure your project moves smoothly later on. So, as part of your data assessment and indeed a look at the data sources, you need to have a grasp of the sort of volume or quantity of data that you need to flow through your processes. There's no good having a huge amount of data and finding your target system or the process at the other end consuming it, for example, an AI prompt and query, can't handle the data that you're trying to push to it. So it's a good idea. And also it will give you, for example, in a data migration, you'll have a heads up of the number of megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes that you're moving. Obviously less important in smaller projects, but if you're moving or you're processing data for large data warehouses with a lot of processing and ongoing changes, then this could become crucial. To assess your source data quality, what you're trying to do is see how many records, how do those records grow, how complete are the records, are you missing key things that are going to impact your data migration? How do those records interact across systems and between processes? I really like a process-driven approach. And so you're aligning the data you need to move with how those users are going to use that data in the new systems. Now, clearly, you need to look at the existing processes and sources. They need to be mapped to your new processes and sources. And this data quality for those processes is a key thing to do early on in your project. There's different approaches for this, and obviously you're going to take a quantitative approach where you're counting to get a high level idea of how many records, what percentage of cleanup is required based on the missing gaps or accuracy errors. How you record your data quality is up to you, but an idea is you'll be looking at your process, and this, for example, may be the sales order process. So it's in your sales department, and you might look at your counts, and depending on the type of migration, you'll likely take over open sales orders unless you need history. And let's say you look in your system and you have 3,000 open sales orders. You need to get an idea for the new system how much they grow per year. So, how many you're putting on per week or a period, and then you can come up with a percentage. Are there data gaps or accuracy issues with those sales orders? Recent migration I looked at, the sales orders had text lines where they should have had links to the actual products that are in their system. So this created a migration issue. So they're all the kind of things to then build up a picture with the different processes, the amount of data. Have you got any process documents? Have you already got documents that define your process that you can help later for your target system and user testing? Whichever approach you take, whether you're recording your assessment in an Excel sheet, in this, or in some other document, make sure to carry out an adequate data quality assessment for your needs. So the next step of the Flow7 migration system is to define your master data set.